Thursday morning, everybody. It's so good to be here again with you on a Thursday. You're joining us for a reading from Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul, a book that I wrote several years ago, published by Whitaker Press. And I read from them because those meditations started because I was in a difficult place in my life and I needed to do something to keep myself going. And writing seemed to be it. I mean, always wrote, but writing seemed to be it. And I thought because we were in such a place, because I had seen so much of the struggles and the I don't know, just struggles is the best word to say, of the people who are doing social justice work, these young people who are out on the streets and doing the direct actions. And oh my gosh, they did so much. And I had joined with them sometime before. It was around the shootings of Trayvon Martin and then Michael Brown. And I just thought the passion of these young people and their commitment to justice, it just inspired me. But I also realized that many of them did not seem to be connected to God or, to church. And I really believed then, and I believed now, that you cannot do this work without being connected to God. Because you just can't do it by yourself. Our souls have limited capacity to handle stuff like this, where you're constantly being pushed back and pushed down and criticized, and the things that you're trying to get accomplished are swiped at and stomped on and mashed out. It's a difficult work to do. Excuse me. And so I started writing these. I wrote many of them. I write every single Tuesday, and I've been doing it ever since the year I started these things. And Whitaker House decided to take some of them. They took 90 days worth and put them in this book, Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul. The sales have not been as great as I wanted them to be, but you can still purchase them. Someone said that Amazon had at one point told them that there were no more copies, but there are copies. You can get them on Amazon or Best Buy. Go to your local bookstore, but they are available. And then I also write a meditation all the time, every single Tuesday. Even if I don't show up here on Thursday, I write a meditation on every single Tuesday, and I send those meditations out to the people who have signed up to receive them. And so, as I say every single week, if you want to be on the distribution list, you should send an email to crazyfaith2019 at gmail.com, and just say that you want to be on the distribution list, and it will happen immediately. And I encourage you to do that and tell your friends to do that, especially in this very, 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 very um, troubling political season where so much is at stake. Hopefully, there are going to be people who are going to want to maybe step out and be involved. Maybe if they've never been involved before. They always say that democracy is work. It is. It is, because in spite of God and in spite of, things that we believe God believed us to do, wanted us to do, many people don't believe that there should be liberty and justice for all. Many people don't care about much else than money, and they don't believe in there being enough for everybody. So nobody has to starve, nobody has to be hungry, nobody has to be homeless. We have enough money here. Just think about the Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, the Super Bowl that was just had. I don't watch NFL because I don't like what they did to Colin Kaepernick, but I read a piece where, and it's all I could read, but one seat, which was not particularly expensive, one seat to the Super Bowl cost $9,000. I thought, good grief. And that was in that great big old stadium, in Las Vegas. I don't remember what the actual numbers were of what the yield was, the financial yield was for the Super Bowl, But when I think about stuff like that, it makes me sad, because even as people are saying, we don't have enough money to do this, we don't have enough money to do this, you don't have enough money to feed the hungry or to build housing that is good housing for the poor, or create job organizations so that people can work. Because even though they like to say the violence is mostly committed by Black people. We know that that's not true, but I do know this: that if you have a job, and a really good job, you're not going to steal nothing from anybody. Your spirit is going to be better because you know that when you don't have money, you're just out of sorts. When somebody's calling you, and bill collectors are calling you, and they're sending you letters in your mailbox. Sometimes you don't even want to go to your mailbox and open it up. We have enough resources in this country for that not to be the reality for anybody, but that's not going to happen. So we have to work for it. We have to push for it. And that's why we tell people to vote, because that's the only weapon we have. That is the only weapon. Organized people are bigger than and more powerful than organized money. So that's what I need for you to remember. Anyway, I have been ranting in my own spirit about the Super Bowl, all of that money that was spent to watch people play a game. And shout out to Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs for winning. And shout out for people who play the game and play it well, because I believe in honoring people who do things and do it well, but at what expense? And so then we had, so that I was already fretting about. And then there was the tragic shooting yesterday in Kansas City as the team was being celebrated for their victory. And lo and behold, there was a shooting, yet another mass shooting. I think I heard someplace that already there have been over 700 shootings or mass shootings in this country, and it's only the middle of February. What the heck? And I also heard that Missouri, which is because the parade happened in Kansas City, Missouri, has some of the most lax gun laws in the entire country, and that the governor of Missouri started running for cover once the shooting started. I thought, why don't you stay out there with your gun and live the life that you guys say? Because people who are pro-gun, pro guns, that as we have it here in the country, will say the only thing that stops a bad shooter with a gun is a good shooter with a gun. There were 800 armed police officers out there yesterday, 800 with guns, and they could not prevent the shooting from happening. So now we have at least one person dead, 15 to 20 people in the hospital, many of them children. And the I don't want to say Republicans, but the people who are against laws for gun control are going to say this is not the time to talk about it. When is it? How many mass shootings have to happen before somebody stands up and says, you know what, enough. I don't know what event it would take for people to stand up and understand that calling for gun laws, common sense gun laws, does not mean people want to take away your guns. They just want to take away the assault weapons. You don't need that. We are not at war. I watched a documentary called We Own This City, and it's about police corruption in Baltimore, Maryland. It's really, really good. It's based on a book entitled by the same name. But the thing that spurred, I think, the police violence and just the out of control police violence against people, especially against Black people, was a so-called war on drugs. Well, excuse me. Well, when you are at war, there are two sides: the good guys and the bad guys. With the war on drugs, what happened was the so-called good guys were given license to shoot the bad guys. That's what they did. That's like what happened during the days of slavery. So-called good guys, those who were deputized by governments, were given permission to shoot the bad guys, which were enslaved people who chose to try to run for their freedom. Come on. Those types of wars are manufactured wars, but they create havoc and pain and suffering within a culture that does not have to be. So they are at war. They're warrior cops. They are trained to do that. So we have a trial that's going on now. The deliberations are going on now for an officer who shot a young Black man in 2020, I think, 5 times in the back. And he's saying his attorneys are saying it was self-defense. What are you talking about? He was at his door. He had his key. He was walking into his house, and the police officer who said that this young man had waved a gun at him, apparently, I don't know if he waved it or not, but apparently he had sandwiches in his hand. He was taking the sandwiches home to his family. He was at his door. He was opening the door, and this police officer who is on trial right now shot him 5 times in the back. That's war behavior, because if his back was to the officer, that there's no self-defense thing there. He could have said halt. He didn't. I don't know what all happened, but I do know that the reports say he shot him 5 times in the back. That's war-like behavior, because it's either them or us. And I guess this police officer and many people in law enforcement think, well, it's us. We got to get them. We're the good guys. They're the bad guys. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. So I bring all that up because there's a need for us to vote so that we can get people in office who will more reflect the desires of the masses of people who believe that there should be liberty and justice for all. That really does need to happen. And so that's why I encourage people to vote. Now, some people are going to vote for the former president. God bless you. Some people are going to vote for a third party candidate. God bless you too, because a vote for the third party candidate is a vote for the former president. And this guy, this former president, he just drives me crazy. He's like an overgrown middle school student, but the way he called names and the things that he says and the consistent lying, it just gets on my nerves so bad. And so if you vote for a third party candidate or if you vote for him, God bless you, but you're screwing with the rest of us. You're screwing with everybody. And you don't have to believe that the current president is all good, because he's not. He's not. He's not. But he has done a remarkable job of doing some things for the people during his time in the presidency. So I don't know. This is the 15th day of February. We are midway through the second month of the new year. We are in the season of Lent for Christians. Yesterday was Ash Wednesday. We are in a season where we need to stop and meditate and think about how we are going to push through and work for justice. And that's why I write these meditations. Boy, that was a long rant today, isn't it? Well, this week, my meditation was called, excuse me, When Life Demands the Perpetual Doing of the Impossible. And I thought I would share that one with you today, because really, when I look at what's going on around us today, sometimes it feels totally impossible. But Dr. Martin Luther King describes in his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, a time when a man named Ole Bull, a Norwegian violinist, was giving a concert in Paris when his A string snapped. Instead of stopping and having everything to find a new string and replacing it, he transposed the composition he was playing and finished the concert playing on 3 strings. Don't you love that? I love that. I love that. It's an amazing story. What the violinist did revealed a level of artistry that only comes when one has studied and internalized his or her art, such that the internal talent that feeds what we hear or see, that internal talent which God gives and that no situation can take away, takes over. Talent comes from God. And when that talent becomes a part of one's soul, one gains the capacity to handle the glitches, the problems, and the issues that an individual always does confront because he or she is alive. That is a necessary skill, because so often, Dr. King writes, quote, there are times when life demands the perpetual doing of the impossible, end quote. I love that. There are times when life demands the perpetual doing of the impossible. We are not allowed to stop and carefully readjust or correct situations that make life difficult. We are required, rather, to keep on walking with our hands in the hand of God and create victories out of situations that have the capacity to shut us down. It reminds me of how when I was a student and taking piano lessons and it was time for a recital, my piano teacher would say, if you forget something, just keep going. The people in the audience don't know what you're playing. You can repeat the phrase that you just played, just keep playing. And if it's inside of you, if you have practiced enough so that this music is inside of you, pretty soon your soul will pick up and begin to move your fingers to finish the music that you were playing. And she was absolutely right. Dr. King wrote, quote, through years of unjust oppression and unmerited suffering, our A strings of opportunity have snapped. But our lives must go on without self-pity or surrender, end quote. He said also, quote, our lives will be comparable to the Battle of Marengo. In the morning, an obvious defeat. In the afternoon, a resounding victory, end quote. The challenge of every Negro, he wrote, is to hold on to the determination to keep climbing. Isn't that powerful? The truth of the matter is that our spiritual muscles burn as we climb what seems to be impossible walls and mountains. We do not have enough time to sit and soak in a warm bath of Epsom salts. We are called to push through despite our fatigue and physical, that is physical as well as spiritual. The walls do not go away. The mountains seem to emerge from nowhere. The trek toward justice never ends, and the terrain does not make it easy for us to go on, but we must. We are called to keep climbing. We are climbing the walls and mountains of injustice put in place not by God, but by powers and principalities that want us to stay as far away from their power, their money, as possible. We are called to keep climbing, though the battles waged against us in the form of government policies and or the unjust justice system are never ending. We are called to climb, to fight the pain that wants us to give up, so that those coming after us will learn from us. It is difficult, if not sometimes impossible, to change the minds of people who are stuck in a mindset that says that they are right. They have decided not to see or hear anything else. They only know their desires and needs and refuse to consider that the barriers they are creating may one day affect them. But those who are the beneficiaries of their blindness and deafness have a moral obligation to show them that the power within them is greater than the power outside of them. The power within strengthens them and threatens the arrogance of those who believe that what they create is greater than God. Wow. We have to believe and remember that evil is not greater than good unless we get quiet and refuse to keep climbing the walls put before us. We have to remember that God in us is greater than the evil around us. We have to remember that too often, what people mean for evil, God means for good. The impossible will always be with us, but so will God. When we say, I can't, God, like a coach says to us, not only can you, but you will. You can and you will. Y'all have had coaches like that. He said, I can't do not another sit up, not another push up. And the coach says, you're going to do 5 more because you can. My job as a coach is to push you. God in us will push us to take one more step on that wall that was built to steal our joy, our freedom, and our justice. God in us massages the spiritual muscles that are sore from hurting from the buildup of spiritual lactic acid that cause constant muscle pain. God says, as coach that God is, you will be all right. God, the psalmist, reminds us that he said, be with us at all the time. God will be with us at break of day, sore and limping, but still walking, as the impossible will never go away. We should work as hard as we can to strengthen our spiritual muscles so that we can keep climbing and with every step forward, whisper a thank you. Thank you to God, to the God in us, inside of us, that strengthens us and pushes us despite our pain and fatigue. God's presence in the midst of the impossible is a gift for which we have to give thanks. Amen and amen. So that is the meditation for today. I hope it resonates with you. Sometimes I crack myself up because sometimes my meditations resonate with me so much that I have to go back and read them again and again. But that's what these meditations are for. I want you to ingest something that is greater than the foolishness and the injustice and the circumstances that are going around, flying around us. We have something greater. We have something that none of that can take away. And when you think about that, it should give you strength for the journey. So that is it for today. Now, I may not be here next Thursday. I'll be at a conference on a Thursday. You know, I tell you that I have so much trouble with the lighting in hotel rooms. But if I can get it together, I'll see you next Thursday. If not, maybe I'll play a previously run meditation, and I'll see you the following Thursday for sure. So have a great, 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 great day. Please keep in your prayers the victims of the shooting that happened yesterday at the celebration parade for the Kansas City Chiefs. And please put in your spirit prayers for this system that seems like it, or some leaders of the system who seem to want to lead it down a path of authoritarianism, which will be really bad for all of the rest of us. You guys take good care. I'll see you.